Eloise Paris was not just a clothing store. It was a secret place for the richest people in the world. It looked small and simple from the outside, but inside, it was grand and beautiful. The floor was covered with expensive rugs from other countries. The shelves displayed clothes that no regular person could afford, and the soft leather seats were made for only the wealthiest customers. The air smelled like fancy wood, and soft music played in the background, making the whole store feel exclusive. The rule here was simple. If you had to ask how much something cost, you didn't belong. The woman who made sure these rules were followed was Hannah. She was the store manager, and she had sharp eyes. She could tell right away if someone wasn't supposed to be there. She wore a perfect black dress, designer high heels, and always stood straight like a queen. She didn't just sell clothes, she sold status, power, and exclusivity. And she would do anything to protect the boutique's reputation. One quiet afternoon, the soft chime of the doorbell rang. A woman walked in. She looked very different from the usual customers. She wore a simple white hoodie, loose sweatpants, and a black cap that covered part of her face. Her brown hair was tied up in a messy bun, and she wore big sunglasses that hid her eyes. If she had walked anywhere else, no one would have noticed her. But in this store she stood out, and not in a good way. Hannah was busy helping a VIP client try on a diamond necklace. But as soon as she saw the woman, she froze. She immediately decided that this woman did not belong in Eloise Paris. A tourist, Hannah thought. She's probably just here to look around, maybe take some pictures, and then leave without buying anything. That could not happen. Hannah had a reputation to uphold. Discreetly, she put down the necklace and walked toward the woman. Her steps were controlled, her expression polite, but her mind was already made up. "Can I help you?" Hannah asked in a smooth, practiced voice. The woman, whose name was Sandra, turned and gave a small smile. "Oh, thank you, but I'm just looking." Hannah kept smiling, but inside, she had already decided how this would end. "I see," she said. "Just so you know, all of our pieces are exclusive and made to order. Nothing here is placed on display by accident." Her tone was polite, but the message was clear. "This place is not for you." Sandra pressed her lips together slightly. "I imagine it's not," she replied. Hannah was a little surprised. Most people got the hint and left. But not Sandra. She stayed. Then, to Hannah's frustration, Sandra reached out and touched one of the dresses. It was a brand new piece from the latest collection. One of the most expensive items in the store. That was it. Hannah had to act now. She turned toward her assistant, Emma, who stood behind the counter. "Emma," she said in a hushed tone. "Keep an eye on that woman." Emma hesitated. "But why?" Hannah sighed as if the answer should be obvious. "She might ruin the experience for our real customers," she said. Emma didn't respond, but something inside her felt uneasy. She didn't like what was happening. Meanwhile, Sandra continued walking through the store at a slow, relaxed pace. She ran her fingers over the fabrics, appreciating the quality of the clothes. She loved fashion, but she hated the way some people used it to make others feel small. The other customers started to notice her. Two VIP clients sitting on a plush couch whispered to each other. "Did you see that woman?" one of them muttered. "How did she even get in here?" the other replied. "A hoodie and a cap? She looks lost." Sandra couldn't hear them, but she could feel their eyes on her. It was always the same game, the same judgment. Hannah decided it was time to put an end to this. She walked back over, her heels clicking against the floor, and stopped next to Sandra. "Ma'am," she said, still smiling, "I noticed you liked that dress." Sandra turned to her. "Yes, it's beautiful." "I agree," Hannah said smoothly. "But perhaps I could suggest something that better suits your style?" Sandra raised an eyebrow. "My style?" Hannah's smile remained, but her body language grew tense. "Yes. We have some more casual pieces. Something that might make you feel more comfortable." Emma, standing behind the counter, felt her heart race. She had seen Hannah do this before, but this time, something felt different. Sandra gave a small, knowing smile. "You think I wouldn't be comfortable in this dress?" Hannah blinked, surprised again. "I just meant that. You think I can't afford it?" Sandra asked, her voice calm. The boutique went completely silent. The assistants looked away, pretending to rearrange things. The VIP clients stopped whispering. Everyone was now watching. Hannah refused to be intimidated. "Ma'am, I was simply suggesting something more appropriate," she said firmly. Sandra looked at her for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. She laughed. It was a soft, controlled laugh, but it was enough to make Hannah's stomach tighten. "I see," Sandra said. Then, to Hannah's horror, Sandra reached for another dress. This time, a black silk gown that was even more expensive than the first. Hannah clenched her jaw. She walked up and stood directly beside Sandra, looking her up and down as if examining something unpleasant. Then she gave a fake, condescending smile. "Are you sure you want to try on that dress?" Sandra raised her eyebrow but didn't respond immediately. Hannah continued before she could answer. "I just mean that this design requires a certain posture, a certain grace that brings out its elegance. And, of course, the right accessories." Her eyes flickered to Sandra's baggy sweatshirt, her simple sweatpants, and the cap that covered her face. Then she let out a quiet chuckle. "I could suggest something more appropriate for your profile," she added. Sandra understood exactly what Hannah meant. And now she was sure that Hannah had no idea who she was. Still, she wanted to see just how far Hannah would go. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Sandra asked. Hannah's smile stayed in place. "Just that some people mistake this boutique for a regular store." Sandra sighed. "So, in your opinion, I shouldn't be here?" Hannah gave an innocent look. "Oh, I would never say that," she said, still smiling. "But some of our clients might feel uncomfortable." Now the insult was clear. Sandra pressed her lips together for a moment, then let out a slow breath. "I see," she said. Hannah thought she had won. She thought Sandra would finally walk out embarrassed, but then something happened that made the whole store freeze. Sandra looked Hannah straight in the eye and in the calmest voice said, "Funny because when I walked in, no one offered me champagne." Silence. Everyone knew that important customers were always welcomed with a glass of champagne. But Sandra had received nothing. Hannah's face turned pale for just a moment before she quickly tried to recover. "Oh, that must have been a mistake. I can have a glass brought to you right away." Sandra gave her a sharp smile. "No need," she said. "I've already seen everything I needed to see." Then, before Hannah could say another word, Sandra turned to Emma. "Do you think this dress would look good on me?" she asked. Emma hesitated. She looked at Sandra, then at Hannah. Then she took a deep breath and said, "Yes. It would look incredible." Hannah felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. At that moment she realized something terrible. She was no longer in control. Hannah was starting to lose control of the situation. First, someone had dared to question her. Then Sandra made a sharp comment about the champagne. And finally Emma, her own assistant, had the nerve to disagree with her in front of everyone. Hannah could feel the control slipping from her fingers and she hated it. She was used to being the one in charge, the one who set the rules. No one questioned her. No one talked back. And certainly no one embarrassed her in her own boutique. So she did what she always did when she felt threatened. She fought back. She took a step forward, straightened her back, and gave a cold, fake smile. Her voice was smooth, but underneath there was sharpness, a hidden insult. "Well," Hannah said, her eyes locked on Sandra, "since you seem so interested in that dress, I can call one of our assistants to help you try it on." The way she said it wasn't kind. It was as if she were saying, "If you really want to make a fool of yourself, I'll make sure everyone is watching." Sandra caught the insult immediately. Her grip on the dress tightened slightly. But before she could respond, Hannah turned to Emma instead. "Emma, please take this dress to the fitting room and find the appropriate size." Sandra raised an eyebrow. She understood exactly what Hannah was trying to say. Hannah was suggesting that the dress wouldn't fit her, that she wasn't the right shape or the right kind of person to wear it, that she didn't belong here. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The store went silent. Some of the VIP clients exchanged glances, smirking slightly. Not because they found it funny, but because the scene unfolding in front of them was too dramatic to look away. It was like watching a play, a moment of real-life entertainment happening before their eyes. But not everyone was enjoying the spectacle. Some customers shifted uncomfortably. They looked between Sandra and Hannah, realizing something important. If Hannah could treat one woman this way, what was stopping her from treating any of them the same? Hannah noticed the shift in the room. But instead of backing down, she pushed forward. She was too proud to stop now. "You know, ma'am," Hannah said in a falsely polite voice, "we actually have a more affordable store just 3 blocks from here. Perhaps you'd find something there that suits your style better." The insult was like a slap. Even Emma, who had been trying to stay neutral, held her breath. Sandra let out a quiet, almost amused laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a "I can't believe you just said that" kind of laugh. "Did you just tell me to go to a cheaper store?" she asked, her tone calm but sharp. Hannah tilted her head slightly and kept smiling. "I just think some clients prefer something more practical and comfortable," she said smoothly. And then she delivered the final blow. After all, luxury isn't for everyone. The entire boutique went dead silent. Even the VIP clients who had been enjoying the drama didn't know what to say. The sales assistants looked away, pretending they hadn't heard. Emma's stomach dropped. Sandra, however, was still smiling. But this time the smile wasn't friendly. It was something else. Something dangerous. Then she did something no one expected. She draped the dress over her arm and walked toward the cash register. Hannah frowned. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice sharp. Sandra stopped in front of the counter. She glanced at the cash register, then turned her eyes back to Hannah. "I'll take it," she said, her voice clear and firm. The entire boutique held its breath. Hannah let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Really?" she asked. Sandra nodded. "Yes," she said. "After all, luxury may not be for everyone." Then she took off her sunglasses. "But I'm pretty sure it's for me." Hannah turned pale. A VIP client gasped loudly. Another one whispered, "Oh my God." Because now, without the sunglasses, everyone recognized her. Sandra Bullock, the Hollywood actress. One of the most powerful women in the film industry. A woman worth over $250 million. Hannah felt like the floor had been pulled out from under her. The color drained from her face. She had just publicly insulted one of the most famous women in the world. And now everyone in the store knew it. Then the boutique doors opened again. What happened next would be remembered forever. Hannah was frozen. She was still staring at Sandra, but the reality of what she had just done was only starting to sink in. The VIP clients were speechless. The sales assistants didn't dare move. Emma held her breath. And then, the soft chime of the doorbell rang. But this time the sound felt different. Because when he walked in, the entire store went still. He entered with slow, steady steps. Keanu Reeves. His long black coat swayed slightly as he walked. His slightly messy hair gave him a relaxed, effortless look. But his eyes weren't surprised. He already knew exactly what had happened here. And he knew exactly who he was looking for. Without hesitation, he crossed the boutique. He didn't glance at anyone else. Hannah's body tensed. The VIP clients covered their mouths, their eyes wide. Emma swallowed nervously. And then, Keanu stopped right in front of Sandra. Without saying a single word, he hugged her. A strong, real hug. The hug of someone who had been waiting a long time for this moment. Sandra hugged him back, a soft smile appearing on her face. Hannah felt herself sinking. No one could believe what they were seeing. Because now it wasn't just Sandra Bullock standing there. Now it was also Keanu Reeves. And he had just hugged her like an old friend. "It's been too long, Bullock," he murmured, pulling back slightly to look at her. Sandra smiled. "Far too long, Keanu." Then he looked around. He was in the store. The atmosphere. And finally, his eyes met Hannah's. Hannah felt her entire body freeze. Because at that moment, Keanu Reeves knew exactly what had happened here. He didn't need to ask. He had seen Sandra's expression. He had seen the nervous looks on the workers' faces. He had seen Emma's worried stare. And then, he spoke. Keanu turned to Sandra. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp hidden in his words. He said, "I hope they treated you well." The impact was instant. The entire store fell silent. The rich customers turned to look at Hannah. Emma, the young sales assistant, bit her lower lip, clearly nervous. The other workers stood frozen in place, holding their breath. Everyone knew the truth. Everyone knew that Sandra Bullock had been treated badly. And now Keanu Reeves knew it too. Hannah, the store manager, tried to speak, but her throat felt tight. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her whole body felt frozen. Because it didn't matter what she said now. The damage was done. Sandra let out a quiet, slow laugh. Then she looked Hannah straight in the eyes and said, "Oh yes, they were unforgettable." Her voice wasn't angry. It was calm. And somehow that made it even worse. Sandra wasn't yelling or arguing. She was simply stating a fact. And that fact cut through Hannah like a knife. Hannah felt her face burn with shame. Her hands trembled. She needed to say something, anything, to fix this. But there were no more excuses. No way out. Then the worst thing happened. One of the rich customers, a tall, blonde woman dressed in an expensive outfit, turned to one of the store workers. She whispered, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "If they treat Sandra Bullock like this, imagine how they treat the rest of us." The store seemed to shudder. The weight of those words filled the room. Hannah's stomach twisted. Her chest felt tight. At that moment she realized the truth. She wasn't just in trouble. Her entire career, her reputation, everything she had worked so hard to build, it was about to fall apart. And then her phone vibrated. A message. Hannah's hands shook as she reached for her phone. Something was happening. Something she never could have predicted. She looked up and saw everyone staring at her. The rich customers, the store workers, even Keanu and Sandra. She had to do something. She took a deep breath and forced a polite smile. "Miss Bullock," she said, her voice shaky. "I didn't know who you were." Sandra crossed her arms. "And that should change something?" she asked. Hannah tried to answer, but the words felt ridiculous even to her. "No, she stammered. She took another deep breath. "It was a mistake. A misunderstanding." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding?" The store seemed to hold its breath again. His tone was soft, but the words were heavy like a hammer coming down. Hannah swallowed hard. She was losing control. "I just wanted to make sure our experience was exclusive," she tried to explain. Sandra laughed, shaking her head. "Oh, so you get to decide who deserves respect?" Hannah's breath caught. Her heart pounded. She knew deep down that she had lost. Keanu didn't say anything, but his face said everything. Justice had been served. The store workers didn't respect Hannah anymore. The rich customers didn't admire her anymore. The boutique, which had once been her kingdom, now felt like a cage. Her phone vibrated again. She already knew what it meant. The store owner had seen the video. Her career was over. She had no more strength left to fight. She lowered her head, because there was nothing else she could do. Then she got another message. Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone. A notification. It was from the boutique owner. "Hannah, we have a serious problem. Call me now." Her heart pounded. She knew this was the end. But before she could even react, one of the rich customers stood up. She grabbed her expensive purse and said loudly, "I don't shop at places that treat people badly. I'm leaving." Then, without another word, she walked out. Hannah felt her stomach drop. She wasn't just losing Sandra and Keanu's respect. She was losing everyone. Then another customer stood up. "If they treated her this way, they could do it to any of us." Murmurs spread through the room. The store workers exchanged glances. The boutique, which had once been her throne, now felt like a courtroom. And Hannah stood alone. Then the final blow came. Emma, the young sales assistant, took a deep breath. Without looking at Hannah, she reached for her name tag. She took it off and placed it on the counter. "I can't work here anymore." Hannah's eyes widened. She looked at Emma in shock. "Emma," she whispered, her voice almost begging. But Emma didn't hesitate. She turned to Sandra and Keanu and did something no one expected. "May I walk you both to the exit?" Sandra smiled. Of course. The store doors opened, and everyone walked out, leaving Hannah behind. She was alone, trapped in her own mistakes. But the worst was still to come, and she wasn't ready for it. Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves sat at a small, quiet cafe. Emma, now a former store worker, sat with them. She still looked overwhelmed by everything that had happened. Sandra took a sip of coffee and looked at her. "So, Emma, what's next for you?" Emma shrugged. She looked a little unsure. "I don't know. Maybe I'll find a new job. Somewhere I can actually learn and grow." Keanu smiled. "Well, I know some people who could help with that." Emma's eyes widened. "Really?" Sandra smiled. "We like helping the ones who deserve it." Then Sandra's phone buzzed. A message from a friend. She opened it and read it aloud. "The boutique manager has been fired. The video now has 20 million views." Sandra and Keanu exchanged a knowing look. Then Sandra said the final words that would end this story forever. "Some people think being rich gives them power. But real power is treating people with respect." Keanu nodded. Emma smiled. And across the city, in a quiet apartment, Hannah sat alone. She was learning a hard lesson. Money and status don't last forever. And when the world judges you, it judges fast. Because in the end, fancy things mean nothing without kindness. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.